everybody, and welcome back to the Pace Bene channel. I'm really excited to have a guest here today, Michele Dunne. She is the chair of the Pace Bene Board, and she heads the Middle East program at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace in Washington, D.C. Michele has served as a U.S. diplomat for years, and she is a professed secular Franciscan. Michele, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for inviting me, Rosie.
Oh, thanks. It's great to have you. Um, Michele, so I know that you are the head of the Middle East program at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about the work that you do there.
The Carnegie Endowment is a 100-year-old think tank in Washington, D.C. It was started in the run-up to World War I, really in an attempt to prevent the war from happening. And ever since then, scholars at Carnegie have been studying the root causes of conflict, how conflict can be mitigated, how it can be resolved, etc. And in the Middle East program, we're studying a lot of different, sadly, there's a lot of different conflicts in the Middle East and massive change going on in that whole region, particularly as the world moves to a post-oil era. So anyway, my own work there focuses a lot on human rights issues in the Middle East, with a strong focus for me on Egypt, on the Israel-Palestine conflict, which is something I've worked on one way or another for many years, as well as on US policies in the Middle East, how US policies could be demilitarized, how the United States could engage in a more peaceful and constructive way with the nations and peoples of the Middle East.
That is tremendously important, and I love hearing about what you do. Thank you, Michele, for sharing. I'm also interested in, I think it's really cool that you're a secular Franciscan. So I was hoping that you could share with us what you think that St. Francis can teach us about nonviolence.
Well, Rosie, St. Clare said something that I think is important, which is Jesus is the way, Francis showed it to me. St. Francis did something really important 800 years ago, which is that he took really seriously the idea of following Jesus and being and living the gospel. And one of Francis's really important insights was that as long as he was attached to wealth and privilege, he would be contributing to violence. He saw very clearly, in medieval Italy, that the wealthy sort of business class that he grew up in was contributing to violence. That ultimately, if people cling to wealth and privilege, they will have to use violence to defend it. And he just gave it all up. He did something so radical. He really walked away from wealth, from social status, even from safety, and set an amazing example of nonviolence, of peace within himself, peace with other people, and peace with all creation, with the earth. He had a very radical understanding of the oneness of creation.
It's beautiful. And I hope that if Pace Bene ever does one of these trips to Assisi, I can go with you. I was also wondering, as one of my questions, Michele, what does nonviolence mean to you? That's something we talk about here at Pace Bene, but what does it mean to you?
Well, speaking about Pace Bene and Assisi, I really started to learn about nonviolence only a few years ago when I went on that pilgrimage to Assisi in 2018, which was a life-changing experience for me. I was already a secular Franciscan. I was already interested in nonviolence, but that pilgrimage really brought it alive for me and started connecting me, started making me think about what could I be doing, because I found out that nonviolence is not a passive thing, it's an active thing, it's a way of life. And, you know, we as Franciscans talk a lot about how do we promote what we call JPIC, justice, peace, and the integrity of creation. And you know, nonviolence is really a way of finding inspiration, role models, and companions to get involved, you know, in all kinds of movements, organizations, and activities to promote those things: justice, peace, and the integrity of creation.
Wow, I love that. JPIC, I'm gonna keep that with me. And
Say
Michelle,
JPIC to any Franciscan and they know what you're
yes,
talking about.
yeah, I love that. And Michelle, on a lighter note, I've heard that you have something called Michelle's protest sandwich. I was wondering if you could tell me about that.
Yeah, well, you know, over the past few years, as I've become involved in sometimes participating in protests, sometimes doing unarmed civilian protection or de-escalation at actions, protests, sometimes participating in civil disobedience, I have found out one needs to keep nourished. And so I came up with this thing. I take a piece of lavash or flatbread, and I spread it with almond butter. I sprinkle on some raisins or dried fruits, maybe some pumpkin seeds or something, roll it all up. It makes this very small, compact sandwich, which I can wrap up and put in a bag or a pocket. And I find it keeps me going for many hours, you know, whether out on the streets or occasionally, you know, sitting in jail.
I love that. Well, do you mind if I put the recipe in the description? Oh,
It's really useful. It's a very useful and very nonviolent sandwich.
yes. Yes, I love that. I love almond butter. I have some in the fridge. I should make this. Sounds so good. Aw. Well, Michelle, thanks so much for being here today and for sharing with us.
Thank you, Rosie. I've really enjoyed the time with you.
Thank you.
Peace and all good.
Peace, all good.